The first fleet arrived in Botany Bay in 1788 to establish a new Australian colony. The first fleet consisted of 11 ships and took 10 months to travel from Portsmouth in England to Australia. Captain Arthur Phillip's exploration of Botany Bay revealed that the area was not suitable to live. He decided that the colony should move north to Port Jackson. The first white settlers were made up of convicts and their children, as well as the Marines who would guard them. Some Marines brought their families with them. Can you remember how many convicts and Marines were part of the first fleet? There were approximately 700 convicts and 250 Marines. What do you think life was like in the colonies? Many of the convicts who were sent here had committed minor crimes such as theft and fraud. Those crimes were not significant enough for death, therefore the convicts were sent to Australia. The convicts were mostly young, working-class people. After serving their sentence, some were able to own land. Only some of the convicts had been sentenced to Australia for life. Some were only sentenced to a short period of time. From their arrival, the convicts were the main source of labour and played an important role in shaping the future of Sydney Cove. Before Australia had begun to be settled, Britain was facing major overcrowding in their jails. This is when Britain introduced transportation, in which Britain would send convicts to another country as punishment. Do you remember where they transported convicts to before Australia? Before the American War of Independence, Britain would send their convicts to the British colonies in America. America's War of Independence made them independent from Britain and meant that Britain could no longer send convicts there. After determining Australia to be terra nullius, Britain thought this would be the best place to expand their empire. What did terra nullius mean, and why do we now know this description of Australia wasn't accurate? Terra nullius means no man's land, or land belonging to no one. Both Captain Cook and Captain Phillip believed the land to be empty and that the people who lived here were very few and that they were savages. They believed that the British law was legitimate and the laws of the people were not. We now know that Aboriginal people had already occupied Australia for thousands of years before the first fleet arrived. After Port Jackson was settled, other penal colonies were established following the arrival of more convicts. Can you name any? One colony that was established was Newcastle. Newcastle was intended to be a secondary penal colony, which means convicts were sent here if they committed another crime while serving their original sentence. This was also a good way of providing labour for the new colony. There is a valuable material that is mined in Newcastle. Do you know what that might be? The material was coal, and to this day Newcastle is still a large exporter of coal. Walking around Newcastle today, you can still see the remnants of the original settlement, including the convict labour yard and the lighthouse. Take a walk in somebody else's shoes. Imagine what it would have been like to be a convict working on Nobby's Lighthouse, the Breakwall and the rest of Newcastle Harbour before there was any machinery and transport.